If you're a heavy drinker, you're probably gonna laugh out loud at what I'm about to show you, but if you've also messed up every holiday due to your drunken antics, then stick around because we gotta do different to be different. Remember, I'm never gonna pressure somebody to go absolutely cold turkey, dry, sober for the holidays, but I am gonna encourage us to be a little bit smarter if we don't feel like we can go dry. So today we're gonna go through 3 low alcohol and low calorie cocktails so that you can imbibe a little bit, but remember that we also have those mocktail recipes to stagger and switch in there too. So let's get started on the first recipe. We're gonna make a good old-fashioned mimosa, but you're gonna notice that I got a little baby bottle. This helps us right out of the gate control our portion sizing. I'm also gonna show you a recipe that is predominantly the juice. Again, if you're a heavy drinker, you're probably laughing and wanting to crawl out of your skin right now because quite honestly, we just want the champagne and just a tiny little bit of juice. But again, if we don't want to be drunk AF by 11 a.m., let's pull the reins back a little. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in. I've got my orange juice. I always go with Simply Orange. Seems like the most natural. I'm going to actually pour that right in, and I'm gonna start with that as my kind of my middle layer, and you're gonna see what I'm talking about in here just a moment. We've got the orange juice and then pomegranate juice. So I know that we all like to think that wine is really healthy and high antioxidant, but this is actually something that has antioxidants in it at a fairly good level. So I'm going to try with this really full glass to drop this down the side of my champagne flute so that it creates kind of a little ombre effect. Whoop, making a mess, that's okay. And then you can see that my glass is already filled about halfway before I'm ever able to put bubbly in it. Now this, again, is portion sizing so that you're not getting too cray-cray at 9 a.m. So think about less is more if you want to be present for the entire day, right? We don't want to be embarrassing ourselves in front of grandma again. So now I'm going to go ahead and just top this off with that champagne. Now this little baby bottle has about 2 to 3 servings in it, but when you split it up like this, you're going to get more bang for your buck. And remember, sometimes it's more just about the ritual of drinking something in a fancy glass. So if you can believe that this is gonna make you feel a little tipsy and be really yummy, then you're gonna have a good attitude so that you're not thinking, man, why can't I just drink the whole bottle? And now we're going to add the garnish. The garnish is the best part for any type of holiday drink, even if it is lower calorie, lower alcohol. It makes it really fun to have a little bit of eye appeal. We've got the rosemary, and then I used raspberries instead of cranberries, but this looks so nice and pretty, and I'm ready to have a little bit of fun but not get carried away. So this next recipe might kind of mess with you a little bit in your mind, thinking that's not low calorie, that's not low alcohol, but we're going with a hot chocolate with peppermint schnapps using lower calorie Swiss Miss. And we're actually letting ourselves have a little bit of sugar with the marshmallows. This ends up being lower calorie in the grand scheme of things because if you can think of this cocktail as a dessert, you're probably only gonna have one, right? Versus back in the day, I know I pounded about 10 Tito's and sodas because they were diet drinks, so I could have as many as I wanted. So there's a little bit of a mindset shift when you do something a little bit more of a treat cocktail because you're typically only gonna have 1 or 2, right? So for this peppermint hot chocolate, we are using peppermint schnapps. Peppermint schnapps, any type of schnapps or typically any liqueur is gonna be lower alcohol content. So even though I'm gonna use a full ounce of the peppermint schnapps, it's about the same alcohol content as wine, maybe a little bit higher. I like to joke that this drink is kind of like grandma approved because we know grandma doesn't want us getting really drunk, but she does like some sweets, right? So this one is one of those that I feel like even my old granny would say that's okay to have on a holiday. So I'm adding a little bit less than 1 ounce there. And then after I stir that up, I'm gonna pop in some marshmallows. All right, so I'm stirring this up, and we were kind of just talking off camera that because this is a little glass, I didn't use that full ounce of the schnapps. So you can always keep in mind kind of the vessel that you're drinking from and how much mixer you have. The more mixer you have, the less alcohol, which can really help us over time, right? There we go. Isn't that beautiful? You could even top this off with some sprinkles or chocolate syrup or something like that. But just remember that 1 or 2 of these can help your mind feel like you're still imbibing and having fun, but you're not going to get shithouse hammered by the time that you're supposed to eat dinner. And now we are recreating a classic Manhattan to have lower alcohol content so that you can still enjoy and indulge in something that might be one of your favorites without being stammering drunk around grandma and auntie. So today we're going to be knocking down the alcohol content of the rye bourbon that's in your Manhattan and replacing it with something that tastes very similar but has a lower alcohol content, and that is vermouth. These individually are in Manhattans, but they're typically very small amounts. We're kind of switching up the ratio, doing about 2 ounces total of these two together with less than 1 ounce, anywhere from ½ an ounce to 3/4 of an ounce of your rye whiskey or bourbon of choice. We're also adding in some really good cherry juice that makes it that classic Manhattan flavor. This is one of my favorites that actually is instilled in bourbon. So it has a little bit of that smoky flavor as well. And then of course you can't have a Manhattan or an old fashioned without a little dash of bitters. So for this recipe, I'm doing 1 ounce of the sweet vermouth, and typically this drink is served in a martini glass. I'm going to be mixing it up in this tall glass and then serving it in a wine glass. I find that like hanging out with family and walking around the house with kids around, I don't want to be spilling stuff out of a martini glass, so I feel like the wine glass is a little safer bet. And I don't know about you, but if I go ahead and have like a martini in hand, it really triggers my mind to be like, game on, let's get crunk. So we're gonna just switch up the entire experience, the entire physical experience. So I did 1 ounce, a little bit less than 1 ounce of the sweet vermouth, and I'm going to do about 1/2 ounce of dry vermouth. Again, this is going to replace the majority of the whiskey or bourbon. Vermouth is technically considered a wine, about 16% alcohol for each of these, but when you add other things in that dilute it, it really helps to mellow it down. Now for your whiskey, bourbon, rye of choice, you go ahead and distinguish what your small amount is. Our recipe at Magnify calls for ½ an ounce of this, and I really suggest that you just try less is more as always. So if you enjoy it and you only do ½ of an ounce, that means you can probably have another one without being too out of control. Think about dessert. If you're gonna eat 1 piece of cake, that means you're more apt to be able to eat another piece of cake tomorrow versus eating the entire cake tonight. You're gonna feel like crap. Now this is that classic bourbon cherry juice that I love adding to any Manhattan. I'm going to actually grab a larger spoon and do like 2 to 3 big tablespoons of this. And this is gonna kind of act as a mixer, but it also has that bourbon flavor. You can also get regular Bada Bing smoked cherries that do not have the bourbon flavor added. And I find them at Whole Foods or even at specialty stores, depending on your grocer around you. And again, we gotta go in there with some aromatic bitters to make this a true Manhattan. So just a few dashes, think a little bit goes a long way with that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add my ice. Now, everybody's a little different. Some people prefer shaken or some people prefer stirred. I'm gonna show you how to properly stir this drink with a bar spoon so that it tastes and feels really nice and velvety smooth. I'm using the other end of my spoon because it makes it easier to really get that momentum going. The idea is the less sound that the ice makes, the smoother the drink's gonna be. It almost starts to stir itself. Pro bartenders like to think 20 rotations in one direction, 20 rotations in the other. Can you tell that I used to train bartenders? And now I'm ready to just put a little strainer on top and add it into my pretty glass. Now you can garnish this with an extra cherry. Some people like to garnish it with an orange wedge. Notice that this does not look like a lot. In your mind, you're gonna have to think this is a sipper. This is not something you chug. This is something that you savor and enjoy while you're present and in the moment with all of your loved ones. So I know if you are drinking a lot, high risk, heavy levels, this might have sounded really preposterous because we want our drink strong and we want more in the glass than what I'm showing. But remember, unhealthy minds will look at healthy habits and think that's weird. So give it a try this year. Even just stagger in some of these lower alcohol, lower calorie drinks with some of those heavier drinks if you're still at that point. But if not, make sure you check out the mocktail video too, because we are going to show you how to stagger in some non-alcoholic drinks. Remember at Magnify, we are no pressure whether your goal is to cut back or to quit entirely, which is why I say if you're drinking heavy right now, this is still going to be an improvement, just cutting back a little bit, but learning to enjoy the moment. We're here to help you think different in order to drink different or never again. So make sure you comment your favorite and don't forget to subscribe.